Okay, we're rolling. All right. Not ready for prime time in any way, shape, or form player here. Okay, on the cheery note, I'm Verdia Busto, and this is I changed the name of my channel. It's Schumann Resonances with Verde. So like definitely it's easier to remember, easier to write down. And I just like it's a new year. 3 years I think I've had that as that name. So I just thought it was time for a change, time to freshen things up. I believe I'm properly medicated at this point. I have hot coffee with some creamer and sugar. The lights flashing, numbers clicking. I think we're ready to go. As I said, I'm Verde Busto, and this is Schumann Resonances with Verde. Got to remember that. Um, and This is the Facebook channel to my side of me. I'm one. There you go. And Before I get too far into the video, I'm going to play some, an Aronmix. This is the Depression mix, and this is dedicated to those of you who are missing Tommy, and the lifeboat. I thought, I would. Hold please. Oh, the battery. Sorry, I don't know how much of that I caught. The battery was dying, so I had to plug everything in. I thought I paused it. I don't know what I'm doing. I may or may not edit this out. So for those of you, Tommy in the lifeboat, who are kind of depressed that he's closed shop, and I left him. A lot of you, the 10 of you who are here, that Verde's Terrific 10, also were there. Wages is grandpa, and so. Likewise, you're depressed. So this is the 10/24/2020 depression mix from Aaron, in honor of that. And I thought I might do this as a live stream. I'm going to record this as a video, probably maybe chop it up, but I want to have a live stream, in honor of Tommy. We can talk about it and have a bunch of Aaron mixes playing. See how long it is before the buffer thing just shuts me off. So anyways, that's the plan, the theoretical plan. I got enough meds right now, and if I don't fall asleep from the meds, then I should be all right. So anyway, all right. So I'm Verde. I'm a hot mess. If you're new here, welcome. Please remember to like, share, comment, subscribe early and often. Hit the subscription bell and then select the all notifications, or you're likely to get none of them. And that's not my doing. That's not me being funny. I mean, it may or may not be funny, but it's not me trying to be funny. They don't look at you as a subscriber. Mark Pyers says this. He went over there. He talked to them about it. This is what they said, that if you don't select all, you're not officially counted as a subscriber. So for a few reasons, you need to, and I've talked about this. I continually talk about this. So for your benefit than for mine. I'm not monetized, so it's more for your benefit. For you to hit the select the all, so you get the most amount of notifications in this that you can't. You want to, it takes a lot to get the notifications when they come up regularly. So selecting all is the first most important thing you can do in that. All right. So onward and upward. So this is the Facebook group, like I said, which I had changed as well, and so this reflects. I did this months ago, a year ago. I don't know, months ago. Changed the name of the Facebook group, shortened it, and I like this. So I wanted, from the beginning, I wanted the YouTube and the Facebook group to work together as a team, and they sort of do. But I do a lot of writing for the Facebook group, right? And as I say here, there, you're not far from my mind. So, I think I have most of the house cleaning done. Like I said, I'm going to live stream this somewhere. I don't know what the hell I'm doing at any given second. But that isn't the plan. And I don't do more live streams largely because this is Wi-Fi. It's not even mine. I'm, it's the buffering shuts it off and, stuff like that. So I don't know. So I haven't done one in a while for that. But, in honor of Tommy, let's see if we can do it. So I have kind of a theoretical way that I like doing the live streams and all of this now, having done this now for 3 years. So before I get into this, I'm going to play an Aronmix and then read. Not too long of an Aronmix. I think I'll figure out a point. I don't know, somewhere in here I'll play another Aronmix, and then at part B, halfway between it, I'll play a long smoke break length Aronmix. So, all right. So, with that said, let me introduce to you. Turn it down. There we go. This is our Aronmix of the night. This is the depression mix. Oh, I'm sorry. This is our Aronmix for the night. This is the depression mix. It's 24th of October of 2020. And remember, 2020 is the year we all started seeing clearly. All right, onward and upward.
inevitable. Those who make change impossible make revolution inevitable. Make your revolution inevitable. Make your revolution inevitable. Make your revolution inevitable. Make your revolution inevitable. You wrote us a promise enshrined in the Constitution. Embedded with it are the roots of a racist institution. Draping the undeserving in privilege, no surprise we're pushed to the edge. This raping and robbery must end. No longer to be stepped over. We can't forget the hurts large and small. stolen land, names, bodies. Yeah, they took it all. They took it all. 1/4 of the world held prisoner in the land of the free. Open up your ears and eyes and see why we rail. Forced into birth, do not pass school, go straight instead to jail. Stop being fragile and frail if you chose to reap the whirlwind. Those who stole souls to shackle them on sales.
Okay. I'll just say this. Pausing. Hold, please. System. Okay. So, I need to say this, y'all. Whatever else you think of the Aronmix, I know a lot of people love it. Not everyone likes the music because it makes the video, the overall length of the video, long. And sometimes I talk about the music or whatever, and so I try to respect. It's we're in 3D land. There's a time, linear time. There's a clock. I try to get these so they're not unwatchable. They're I try not to ramble on. That's why I stick to the script. And so I just want you all to understand this. The music playing that allows me, as the one-man show, to do stuff behind the scenes that I can't do. It's just coffee, and sometimes I need to answer, the door right then, or sometimes there's a message right then. I need, life goes on. So sometimes, whatever happens, or sometimes in the course of doing this, I need to readjust stuff or find things. Like I make mention of something, and then I'm like, crap, I got to find the research to that. And so I played the music to help, with that, with the production. And so that's what's kind of maddening about the live streams is you can't do that. You can't really hide behind things. I can, I sort of, but it's without the music, like that's, for me personally, in doing these content, I need the music to help me, kind of mask, I guess, the doing something else. Anyway, all right. So just that's the music is an integral part of it. That mix, Aronmix is an integral part of it because I need time sometimes to make coffee, right? Or open a can of soda, whatever. So I think y'all understand, or pack the medicine pipe. Anyway, so again, I think y'all understand what I'm saying, right? All right. So without any more further ado, 1303. This is a note of hope. And as if it wasn't enough, when I was getting ready to, I think I said this, I'm not sure if I said this, but as if it wasn't already in my mind, I need to make a video of this because I think this is a pretty good writing. And I think this is a good message for hope. I have so much other stuff, backlog of videos I need to do. Like there's a few series in there that I'm still working on trying to get through. I'm probably not ever gonna, whatever. But this was like, all right, this was, something that I think my guides wanted me to say. And so as if it wasn't my own desire or my own understanding that I need to do this, in the comments underneath it, someone had one of my favorite members of the group had said, oh, hey, can you make, because this is a private group. All right. So I made it that way from the beginning. So could you somehow make a link to this so I can share it? And I said, that's why I do the WordPress, and that's why I do the website, and that's why I do Patreon. This one, I don't think this one's up to the public, but I have 6 Patreon people, like, all right. Anyway, so this is I posted to the platform, the rest of the platform, so that it was available to people who wanted to share it, right? And so that's why I'm doing this video as well, so that there's also a another version that's open to the public, right? So, free to you, if you know, if you're here and you're able to watch this, it's free to you. All right. So, okay. So, onward and upward. No to hope. All right. So, your growth is an inside job. It's not dependent upon external forces to get you where you want to be. All right. So that, we always are associating this with the Schumann resonances and all of that, and the atmospheric electromagnetics. But this applies to all areas of your life, of consciousness being essentially where you put your focus, where you put your intention and your energies and your motivation, right? So you can withdraw your concern, your light, your care from a situation. You don't, how much do you need to be concerned about it? And that's one of the reasons why, when you have a lot of property, a lot of stuff, and you're always, you're concerned about all of it, you're always at the mercy of external forces, and that being the things that are affecting your material possessions. Okay, I think that's a fair way to summarize that, subtitle there. All right, so this is part A. We have a lot going on. We all have a lot going on. I'm not always able or willing to post to the group, right? But you're not that far away from my mind. I created the Schumann Resonances group. It was originally Schumann Resonance Harmonics, from the practical hands-on perspective of a field technician who's worked on radio and in the studio installing hardware, antenna. And I've given a list of my qualifications of what I've done, hands-on, practical. I've been to vocational training and network course hardware and all this kind of stuff. There's a lot of practical information that one really needs to know to understand what they're looking at when they're looking at the spectrogram. All right, so I call it it's a rendering. The spectrogram is a rendering of. All right, so this is a rendering of the information underneath it, the raw data. Okay. I've used the terms plotting, rendering, and those are important to understand that's how they're extrapolating data onto the spectrogram. Right? And it's not the Schumann, it's the spectrogram, okay? Or the Schumann resonance spectrogram, technically. The easy way of explaining the tech given from the mainstream sources is pablum at best, and utter rubbish at worst. Okay? And so I have talked about this before, of the rhetoric and the words and the badly phrased concepts, etc. All of this. And it's important to know what is rhetoric and what's what you actually can use, which is useful information. Right? I don't know how to phrase it better than that. Right? But I've talked about this frequently enough. Know the difference between what's rhetorical and what is actual real science. Okay, I think that's the fairest way to put it. All right. So I have always, and all the time I've done this, and even before this, right? Even in talking about this before I started the platform, the YouTube, and all of that, I was always just giving comments and talking with people about this, all right? So I have always dedicated my best efforts to give you the tech side from the practical, my real life experience, which involves reading. I do a lot of reading. I do a lot of research. I think that's to be, expected. All right. But I have plenty of practical experience, working with this stuff. That it's through those eyes, through that practical experience perspective. This is the only way that a person can understand the entire process of the magnetics, electromagnetics of the sky, are captured by the antenna, then converted into digital domain signal, transcribed by the plotting renderer. Oh, it's a great mouthful. The plotting renderer of the spectrogram. All right. And so when I say digital domain, when I talk about it being, converted into a digital signal and then put out onto the network, the server, right? So it's accessible. Right? That's what I'm talking about there. So the there's a few steps involved in getting you that visual image that you can look at, that you access. I give you the source at the end of this, in the description here and whatever. But there's a number of hops and skips and jumps that the data takes from when it's collected to you eventually getting it. So within that, I give you, my practical experience of the various steps that are involved in everything from setting up the antenna all the way to the network problems that prevent you on your end from receiving this, that may have nothing to do, completely nothing at all, anything to do with TOPS, with the spectrogram, the Schumann Resonances, or any of that at all. Your end, it's your connectivity in your house, between your device and your network. Like, I deal with all of that in there as possible issues of what's wrong, what's happening, what's going on. It is a large data chain that's happening here in all of this that you need to be made aware of. Right? Just absolutely. And even if I can't help you solve the issue, whatever, it's like you really need to know that, there's a number of moving parts, as it were, in figuring all of this out. I think that's the simplest way to put that. There's multiple steps involved in gathering the suite, which is a bunch of, like topics within topics, if you will, the suite of information. So specifically what I'm talking about is you have the 4 panels. You have the spectrogram, then you have the amplitude, then you have the quality, then you have the frequency, right? So that's a group of them. And within each one of those specific named subsections, the amplitude, for example, there's a lot that goes into that, understanding that in itself, right? So, and you put all of them together, it's like it's a rather large bit of information, just even on its most basic, on the surface, just knowing the different types of antenna that they use. One type for amplitude, the other type, it's a magnetic induction coil for the quality, and then there's a frequency, which is not the Schumann Resonances frequency that's represented on the spectrogram. No, this is the actual frequency of the fundamental wave. So just even explaining that as the highlights, as the rubric, as it were, the title of the sections, like that is a lot in and of itself. Okay, it's rambled through a bunch of that shit. That in itself is a lot to have to understand when I talk about the suite of information that comes with this spectrogram, which is not a Schumann, and the accompanying dependency data. Struggling, trying to catch a word. All right, so Yeah, which eventually you were able to see for free, and you know, very blasé and blasé, very casually you go there, and then you know you can't access it. Oh my God, what's you know they're doing something, they're manipulating data, they're cooking the books, whatever. It's like, oh my God, no. That's why I go through, make it a point to go through all of the multiple steps that are involved in you getting the free data, you know, which you should be grateful for. Thank you. At all times, you should be grateful for the free data, which they don't have to provide. It's because, again, Tomsk, in this case, Tomsk, Russia, they're a public charter and they're a public institution, and you can say whatever you want, but it's like without that, without their commitment to providing this information to the public as a public service for their, you know, the public funding. Without that, you wouldn't have it, right? I know where to get it. Do you? Would you know otherwise how to gather the information? Probably not. Right? Most people are academarians. They're scholars, they're researchers who have need for this information, not the public at large who believe that ascension goes with the Schumann resonances. You know, anyway, don't get me started. uh, I work to understand, or I work to explain the entire process so you can have a full understanding of the science and technology as it actually is from the real world experience. Okay, I think that makes sense of itself. Um, I work by principle. I live by principle. All right, and so here's a principle. There's no honor nor spiritual value in mislabeling the science or mangling the reading of the spectrogram to fit a certain agenda. Okay? A lot of what is being labeled ascension based is really an agenda. It's promulgated with propaganda. In a nutshell, the agenda is conditioning you to not work for the goal, to have to work, to become docile, and giving up your free will by believing that this is all being done for you. And that is the biggest, first, hugest problem with the Schumann resonances, with ascension, ascension symptoms, with the ringing and the blah, blah, all of this, is that none of that, none of this, none of the above, and then some, is any indication that it's automatically happening to you. Symptoms are something they have, like a hay fever. Like, all right, you can have symptoms of that. You got allergies, like, all right, you know, but this is not something that you get, like an allergy that you get symptoms for. You know, like your growth and your ascension is worked for, it's earned. And the Schumann resonances are not here to help you boost through it or the thing spiking to help you with anything. That's not what this deal is. And they're not spiking for that and blah, 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 all of that, all of that. And so this is why it's important that I do these, that I step away from the hardcore science stuff so I can start talking about some of these associations people make that are just ludicrous, right? Without foundation. And as people come to me and say, oh, well, you know, the research, I'm like, all right, show me the research. And by and large, so far, no one's provided any research otherwise that disproves what I say, right? Meditation, they don't have any research. There is no research. To this point, no one has provided anything otherwise to, you know, disprove this. No one. And I've had this discussion long enough, 4 years now, that people do have research on meditation and stuff, and, you know, but not like not dedicated data to the Schumann resonances and et cetera, and all of that, you know. But I'm always happy to look at what anyone has, right? I'm open, you know, I'm open to it. Um, and that's part of what it is. You can't misappropriate the data and claim it's some kind of spiritual or a metaphysical something that it's not. because you're trying to push forth an agenda, right? And the ascension thing is one of those agenda based at this point. It, it historically speaking, it wasn't, but then they never would call it ascension. It's somehow there's this phrase that's come up and the association with it and the new age, and there's a lot of confusion, confusionary, and tricknology, this kind of rhetoricalisms, jargonationing that happens that trips up and mangalizes people into submission of an idea or a concept or some words or phrases that sound good that have no idea what it means, and they just get baffled, and they're eventually like a lobster trap or a crab trap or something where they just can't, you don't know which way up is. The word salad is killing you. Trying to use of your own mind, figuring out where you are, where the fixed point, as Rene Descartes said, is trying to find the fixed point of where of my sanity I can rest, of finding that, like the in amongst all the illusion, what's real, the fixed point of what really is real, right? And that's the hard part of all of this, is finding that fixed point in all the rhetorical word salad of what's really real and what's your fixed point mentally, spiritually, in amongst all the jargon that may or may not make sense, superimposed upon science, the actual hardcore real science from the practical perspective. Like, that's really the only way you can know what's what, is through the practical hands-on experience. And yet people will give you the wool, you cast the wool over someone's eyes, like that's kind of what this is. And they largely steer you off course based on the jargon, the word salad, right? So I think that's the best way to put that, right? Of beware of the ascensionists and the Schumannites, of what they're trying to sell you, what their agenda is, But clickbait is a clickbait, it's part of the thing too. People that use the Schumann Resonances spectrogram, calling it the Schumann, especially calling it the Schumann. It's mostly what the root of the problem is, and then giving you some whatever sales pitch, to support their organization because it's scratching some itch deep inside of you that you didn't know you had. I think that's a fair way to put it. All right. True growth takes work. Sometimes the work is necessary, discipline of discerning, or discipline, there's a mouthful, discipline of discerning the difference between the truth and the rhetoric of the science. Okay, this is your, what's, like the word salad behind the so-called science of, like I've seen people's interpretation of what the spectrogram is supposed to be, like, oh man, you're way off. You have no idea. They go by the colors. The thing, there's one common one I've seen. They give you a little circle in the spectrum, a little circle, and they say this is your, high vibrational energy, and this is, clearing energy, and blah blah. Okay. What's the difference between the truth and the rhetoric of the science? The science. Okay. If one does not know the actual tech or the proper science behind the reading, one is prone to wander off the proper path indefinitely. Okay, so without being grounded in the proper, hands-on tech of how an antenna is put up in the real world, and where you find one, and one of these antennas, and the like looking at being able to put your hands on the magnetic induction coil, and so like these things, right? Unless you've had that, you're not going to be grounded enough to be able to properly understand what you're looking at. So the proper path is reading this correctly and not ascribing an end of the world scenario to a data anomaly, if you will, right? Shifting timeline because of some black stripe there. Well, I don't know. Did you check with the lab? What's going on in the lab at that time, right? You can't assume to know better about the reading than the lab people. And if you haven't checked with the lab technician, what happened that day? Did someone trip on the plug? Right? Did the janitor trip on the plug when he was cleaning? I don't know. You gotta ask that. It's happened to me. I've unplugged the Wi-Fi at the club cleaning. The broom kicked it out. Technically, I didn't kick it out. The broom did. But whatever. It's a technicality. It happens. You don't know that. A new guy. He didn't know the protocol either. All right, he pulled it out too. It happens. The S-bomb happens. So without knowing what thingamabobber had happened in the lab there in Tomsk at the university, was there a bombing? Like, I don't know, right? Did the lab techs come in late that day, drunk, and, one of them passed out at the wheel? Like, I don't know. You need to find out what happened at the source, right? So as part of what the big part about this is don't wander off the path looking at your local situation and then determining backward that, oh, this is what's going on halfway on the other side of the world. Right? You can't do that. So I stress principles before personalities or pocketbooks. Okay. This was oddly worded sentence. When I was curating the posts originally, when I was looking, and this is my Facebook group. Okay. So originally, when I was posting and curating the post, kind of yes or noing the other posts as they would come in, I was like sticking to the hardcore, practical, hands-on, real-world experiences. Like, so, like I don't, oh, good God, there's a range of stuff, like sky watching picture, like, oh, good God. So I had a strict kind of thing of my own, what I posted. All right. So at this point, 3.5 years into dedicated Schumann Resonances as my primary free time pursuit and enterprise, I've well surpassed the required minimum 10,000 dedicated hours of hands-on experience. Is that a mouthful for you to hear? Because it's a mouthful for me to read. All right. In fact, I estimate I've given at least that much into the hardcore written exposition. All right. So I've written, like I also have written about that, comparing Tomsk, Russia, with Kumiani in Italy, and I've written on that, and I've written on other things that aren't specifically Schumann resonances and the cows coming down from the mountains, and there's a number of things that aren't specific, whatever, but on just the explanation of how to read the Schumann resonances and all of that, the charts and the graphs and all of that with the dependencies. I've spent at least 10,000 hours writing about that. All right. So I've literally written a novel's worth of information on how to interpret the Schumann resonances charts and graphs, and I posted it, most of it here, and I posted some of it in the WordPress as well, and the Patreon, and I think I had posted this. I had started the Schumann Resonances harmonics group. It's private. I'm not able to share from that. So a little bit after I had started the Facebook, then I had started the WordPress to go with that to share, so I could have a public, like especially by request, people that like it. I want to have a place that I could put posts where others could get to it, right? So that was the general idea of why I started the WordPress, and I think that's been a pretty good, kind of combination. I think, in my opinion. All right. So I've got well over 10,000 hours of expertise in this. So this year in particular, my guides had said, you know what, you gotta have some fun. There's a lot more stuff going on. People are looking for more, for deeper. That they're really, there is a spiritual thing going on, spiritual warfare. May not be related to the Schumann resonances, but you gotta. It's a thing. I myself I'm on a kind of spiritual pathway, but what does that mean, right? And so that's sort of what I'm at with this as well. That for me, doing this as a free service is a spiritual pathway. Helping people with this and believing that in time, the universe will reward me for this. This is kind of living by principle. As you put into it, you get forth in one end, you get something coming back to you in the other end, and and so, but that's not necessarily attached to the Schumann resonances or the graphs or any of that, because that's a principle of life itself, not related to the Schumann resonances, right? So the way I do this, the how and the why, the way I do this is living by, in my view, this is how I understand it. This is me. So the way I do this is a spiritual principle, not the Schumann resonances themselves, right? So I try to make this distinction as well. And you're free to as well, free to disagree, free to have your own belief, your own life. That's fine. I'm just giving you my perspective as someone who's on a spiritual pathway. That the Schumann resonances themselves may not be it, but the meditations you do surrounding them are. I think that's a fair way to put it. And me doing these writings, even though I write a lot anyway, they're a form of meditation. I kind of I zone out, and it's mindfulness. It's a form of mindfulness. Okay, so there's a growing this year that my guys gave you permission to explore a lot of these topics. There's a growing spiritual attachment assumed of the Schumann resonance frequency, the one that gets associated with it. It may or may not be there yet. Can you define the word spiritual? Right? Okay, just saying that. If you are saying there's a spiritual connection, can you define the word spiritual? What is it? Right? And I have talked about that spiritual principles can also work in reverse. Devolution, digression, putrefaction, all of these things, right? These are spiritual principles in reverse. Works just equally as well the other way, right? That's what makes them a spiritual principle, is that it doesn't move in one direction, it moves the other way as well, right? It's not physical because it doesn't move in one direction. It moves the other way as well. You can have whatever you want as long as you take care of it. And when you don't take care of it, the universe starts, taking it away from you, taking it back. Okay, that's a spiritual principle as well. Rust, we will call that. Spiritual principle of rust. So, can you define the term spiritual? Just wondering. All right. So, this to me is the single biggest factor involved in the entirety of the discussion. What is spiritual, right? What is spiritual, quote unquote, that it should be automatically associated with the Schumann resonances. Okay, that's your question. So if it's spiritual, what is it, first off, and how should that be naturally, automatically, somehow associated with the Schumann resonances? Right? And remember, there's a series of harmonics. Okay, all right, red light, numbers clacking away. All right, so 45 minutes courtesy break. Yeah. How do I explain that? The union mandatory 45-minute break That's classroom length right there. If you have an hour and a half class, you take a break at 45 minutes, in the lab, the college courses. A lot of the courses were an hour and a half long, so 45 minutes, uni rules, you get a smoke break. So I think I found a good place in the mix that's not depressing, quite honestly. Yeah, I can understand why you were feeling depressed that day, Aaron. Political statements. I love Aaron. He played as a DJ the weekend for Pride. He was on stage, um, Sunday afternoon. He did great. He played a lot of great music. The owner of the club kicked the power out on him, and he was like, "Oh, sorry, my doing," and he went back and plugged it in, and so we booed him and called him a jerk. But Aaron did a great job. I have a few minutes of recording of Aaron that I gotta find. It's on my phone anyway. So I think yeah, 45:54. Yeah, that's the sign. All right, so, play the mix. Let's find the switch here. All right. Okay, we're back. I'm back. Um, and I don't think I said this at the beginning. I had been planning to, but it's 8:30 now. But when I first started this, it was around 7 o'clock. So, that's meeting time. So I I didn't miss a meeting necessarily to be here. There's a few reasons why I chose to do this instead of going to meeting. I was at the morning meeting, my home group. Just for those of you who know me, following along, who know what meeting I'm talking about. And so this is sort of a secondary kind of meeting for those of you who have missed your meeting. Like I said, this for, kind of dedicated as a live thing eventually, hopefully. Certainly this will be a premiere if nothing else. All right, so for Tommy in the lifeboat. All right, so anyway, so as luck would have it, I've also, so not only have I done a lot of radio and all of that, but I also have I've studied on magic and the occult and Masons, all that kind of stuff. It's always all of that's interested me. And I also have a personal belief in a higher power, greater spiritual guide, uh, which I work to keep out of the discussions. My belief in a higher power. I try to keep it out of this because it's just about the hardcore science and that of this, and not the belief aspect, right? Uh, Source creator God is kind of right. This is sort of how I kind of envision this, like the creator God. This is what the veil is, right? This is part of what makes Earth so unique and so different and so difficult, is that veil of the living planet of Maya, of Gaia, the veil of Maya. All right, so creator source God creates this place that's able to, magically exist outside of. How the hell does that even happen? I don't know. You're God, you can do whatever you want. I don't know. But he's able to stand back and kind of watch all of this go down. This period of time is referred to as the ending of the Kali Yuga. I didn't make up that name. This is not my, this is not my work on this. I'm just telling you what, where we're at in this. The ending of the Kali Yuga. This is the wrap up of the wrap up, as I've called it since like the beginning, since I started doing this, and we started talking about it. I've called this the wrap up of the wrap up. It's the harvest of the souls. Many are called, but few are chosen. The work is hard, but the laborers are few. Thanks. There's another expression that I heard that I don't think it was necessarily related to this, but I thought it fit. Thank the heavens that those days had been shortened, lest no flesh would have been left alive. And that was one of in the Bible schools, Bible and the Bible classes. When we come across that, I came across that verse a few times, and it was always sort of chilling. To thank God that those days had been shortened, lest no flesh would have been left alive. No one would have survived. And so it's a very sobering kind of thought that, okay, so it's kind of, the name of this article is Message of Hope, a note of hope. And, this doesn't sound very hopeful, but that's what we're talking about, putting your conscious effort toward that of, praying, that this ends all of this transition period, what I would call the transition period, ends quickly and briefly, and it all, smoothly. And do the work that you need to make sure it passes over you in a relatively reasonably quickly, safely manner. Earth is a school. It is the most difficult of all those available for lessons. That's a hard one to explain. Among other things, sure, but a learning place which we all originally volunteered and contracted for, right? So in the beginning, all the souls that came here, you agreed to, uh, there was a contract. You agreed to learn certain lessons that you can only learn here in Earth, right? Shut off from prime source. I mean, that's part of the deal of this. And I know if it's true for me, it's true for everyone else who's incarnating here. Uh, there is a contract that we agree to prior to incarnating here into the earth birth body of the Adamu, the suit of forgetting. Um, and so we all have lessons that we're supposed to learn when we come here. That's what's most important to understand about this. That this is, and amongst all the other stuff that happens, and that you do and agree to here in this life, before this, you agree to lessons, to learn lessons, and it's the hardest, most difficult part of that, of having to do what your contract says when you can't actually see it, right? I've told them, my guides, that I don't see a fucking contract. I can do whatever I want, and sure, but that really sucks. I want to see the contract in front of me. I don't want to have to guess. I don't want to have to believe, right? It's one of, I know if it's true for me, it's more true for anyone else who would be hearing this or understanding this. That having to figure out your contract when you can't see it, it's not in writing that you can see anywhere. You have to meditate. You have to ask God, your guides, your higher power, your dead relatives or something. Please help you out here. The universe, the creative intelligence of the universe, you have to call out and ask. I do know that when you ask, you get an answer, right? In some way, shape, or form, may not originally, likely not originally what you had originally envisioned, but you get a clear enough indication for you of what you have to do. Uh, I'll just say that, right? But you have to ask. You have not because you ask not. That's the principle. Uh, Most folks, humans, alive now, who have ever lived, most folks can't escape the wheel of karma in their actions. They need to repeat the school. They need to come back to Earth a few times. There might be a few great cycles involved in learning their chosen lessons. Some people just don't seem to be able to learn. You wonder why, but they can't really manage to learn some of the most basic stuff that, say, the rest of us have. Let's put it that way. The Earth is the most difficult school out of all those available as a life force or as a spark, right? So you, as a, you're a spark off of source, your life force, your spirit, your soul. So you, as an individual being, you can inhabit an Earth form. Right? And so you can learn how to be even more independent, more isolated, more, self-contained as a human being, right? The clay of the earth, the body suit of the earth allows you to be insulated and isolated against a great many things that you as a spirit, the animating force of the spirit, that you wouldn't be insulated and isolated from. Right? If you're picking it up directly through the ether, you couldn't claim the same ignorance as you can in the form, in the body. Right? I think that's a fair way to put it. The body itself can be an insulator or a conductor, either or. Right? I I would like to talk about that more, but I'm not going to here. But generally speaking, your body has a circulatory system. You have an electromagnetic, you know, field around you. You're a self-contained unit. You can either accumulate and hold on to a charge, or you can resolve that into a ground and let that dissipate through you. You can move it through you, right? So either or, you have a choice in this completely. Um, the current graph. Okay. I'm sorry. The body itself is an insulator or a conductor or a transceiver. If one tunes into the right field or resonances of others, right? We pick up others' energies, words, actions, and store them with us, holding us to certain vibrational states. Hopefully that makes sense. The current graph, such as it was earlier when I wrote this, it was 21 pico electron volts. That's not much, okay? So the chart shows huge spikes, but the actual number value is not high. So that's one of the principles that people need to remember in this, is that even though it's a spike, a fairly high spike, it may not necessarily be a high number value. It's scaled to fit. I keep mentioning the phrase scaled to fit. This is based on I'm going to say this as a reply, which is based on a reply to a comment. No, they cannot reasonably make a machine that makes itself bigger or smaller, right? Physically makes itself bigger or smaller to accommodate a uniform size wave so that you can always see the same size picture of that wave. I have a hard time even explaining what this is, let alone a hard time even imagining how they could go about doing that. So, anyway, on that rather cheery yet confusing note, I'm going to pause the narrative here so you can have a break. You can have a smoke break or a coffee break. I wrote this on Tuesday, so I'm off to karaoke. I'll finish when I can. And this is a sizable post at this point, so I will call it the end of part A. All right, so I'm going to do a nice long Aronmix at this point to allow me to do something rather, probably smoke, and then I don't know what after that. Maybe just dream off into La La Land. What do we got? Oh, this is a pretty good mix. Yeah. So I'm still making some rice in the background, beans and rice. So I'm going to pause this for a little while, take care of what I got to, then play few more minutes of the mix and then come on. So that's generally speaking the plan here.
Party people, no party people, no party people. We're no party people. We're no party people. We're no party people. We're no party people.
We looking like freaks run the streets, dancing through the sheets like a cheap couple speech, dancing to the songs all night long, and we say ow, 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 woo! But he know, I know, we work all day, then play all night. That's how we do it right. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, pool party Sunday. That's where you'll find me. Party, party people, party, party people, party, we party. We move and groove and dance into the night, all night, all night, all night, all night long. Woo! So sorry, but it happens all the time. Yeah, we skip the line as you watch me from behind, sipping on some booze. This is how we do, and we say ow, 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 woo! But he know, I know, we work all day, then play all night. That's how we do it right. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, pool party Sunday. That's where you
All right.
find me.
Bring it down. Okay, we're gonna pause this. Party, party people. All right, party, party people. We're here. All right, onward and upward. Okay, we're back. It's part of my mission in doing these videos to be motivational while giving some hardcore realities from my own experience about the spiritual world, spiritual development of itself and relative to the Schumann Resonances. It may not be what you think it is when you first come into the discussion. And I try to have a fun atmosphere about this. I think that's important in all of this is, don't take yourself too damn seriously. Rule 62, I think it is. I've posted on collective consciousness relative to the Schumann Resonances, and fairly recently as well. This is a weighty topic for discussion. But this is the point that we're at in the proceedings and the inception of the Aquarian Protocol. As the Aquarian age comes in, these things become more and more on the front burner. It's just how it's going to play out. Things have changed dramatically from when I grew up, just within the course of my lifetime, even as a technically inclined person. It's difficult to keep up with the incursion of technology and applied engineering to the material world around us. As more and more tech gets thrown around and introduced, it's really just harder to keep up with everything. And one of the more important problems is that things are not made to be repaired, by and large. They're just made to be replaced. And it's getting increasingly that way, that you just don't repair anything, you just replace it, throw the old one out and blah, 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 or recycle it. There's meters and sensors on everything. That's the norm. Cameras everywhere is the norm. Internet everywhere is the norm now. Wi-Fi, wireless, Bluetooth, RF signals are everywhere. There's almost no hope that you're getting the true representation of the power of the Schumann Resonances versus the relative strength of the modern electronics. In fact, in other words, the modern electronics are much stronger than the Schumann resonances, and that's proportionally what you're going to feel the effect of. Uh, the front line is the battle between AI wireless telepathy, the wireless between your devices, and the inherent technology of the human body, right? The form itself, your human body, the Adamu, is the means through which collective consciousness operates. People are, generally speaking, following the wrong path in these matters relative to the public discussions on the topic. I've been here long enough to have heard, seen, read a lot of narratives by people putting forth all sorts of crazy notations regarding, or notions, I'm sorry, regarding the Schumann resonances. This is part of the New Age deception. And keep in mind, I've mentioned this before, I'll say it here now, it's relevant. The New Age is not the same thing as the Aquarian Age. They're two different things. And it's part of the Piscean protocol, the duplicity of the Piscean Age. It's still in effect. You know, it's going to take a long time for all of the duplicitousness for everything to come to the surface, and this is one more of those things to be aware of. That the New Age is not the Aquarian Age. The New Age really is more of the Piscean protocol still at work, and it's under a different name, so that you think otherwise. Right? It's just that simple. Don't think that the Piscean bait and switch is over, right? Even though we may be entering into the Aquarian Age, right, and we are in it, you know, a number of sources will agree with that. But even if we, you know, we say, well, we're still entering into this, we're not out of here yet, all right? It actually takes hundreds, if not thousands of years to undo the damage or the structures, we'll just say, caused by the last run of materialism of the old guard, so to speak. It takes hundreds of years to prepare for an age, then hundreds to thousands to remove the remnants of the previous age. And there's an overlap. I've talked about this elsewhere. There's an overlap. At that point, the new age is free to the new incoming age, which would be the Aquarian Age, is free to proceed properly with its potential that's fully available. This is why one needs to be careful of the words, the phraseology, the concepts, and all of that. The Piscean Age is coming to an end officially, or it has officially come to an end. However, there's still a lot of players still on the field, the world stage, as it were. And it's being recognized that a lot of change has already occurred. It's so obvious in many cases that people can't help but notice it. And it can be scary, frightening, alarming, etc., etc. But this is just the beginning. Life here can be difficult. It's hard to imagine it being more difficult, but it can. Fortunately, however, it's relatively short here. That's the offset. It's difficult, but it's short. Then, after this life, after you've, gone on, in the next life, you can continue on in an etheric form. Right? This is me speaking for me. It may or may not apply to you, if you've done the prerequisite work in this lifetime. So you got to work. That's what I'm saying. You have to work at do the proper work, and then you get the prize at the end of it. But there's a lot of work that's involved here in the Earth school and wearing this Earth birth suit, as I call it. It's important for me to mention I am a faithful messenger from the pure light avatar of Prime Source. I do my best to listen and translate into the common language that the majority of people will understand. I am open to answering questions for clarification. All right, so leave me comments if you have any questions on any of this. All right, how much more do we got? I'm just going to read it all the way through, I think. There is an inherent mystery behind the technology if one does not have the proper hands-on experience with it, from my humble point of view. Often, I have mentioned that the spectrogram is complicated, or compiled, I'm sorry, it's complicated, but it's compiled, then it's plotted based on the raw data from two separate antenna systems. The vertical conductivity channel is the electric content with the relatively simple design needed. Right? The amplitude antenna doesn't, it has a relatively simple design. Right? The magnetic portion, however, which is the Teslas, they're measured in Teslas, the magnetic portion is more complex, right? As it requires a magnetic induction coil, right? Or two induction coils specifically, to do the job properly. And this all needs to be calibrated. All of this calibrated so that it's at the right time, and all of this so that I can print up on the spectrum, or plot up on the spectrum. So frequently in this, continually, I've made the claim that your life will be fine, regardless of what you now, regardless of what you know about the Schumann Resonances, or atmospheric electromagnetics. It can help you, and there's days where, the high solar influence days, if you have heart condition, like, all right, so it's good to know that, so you especially know those days to do your extra grounding, right? But learn to ground yourself, your energies, your life, into the planetary body of the energy. And I keep saying this as a principle, and as, hopefully motivational to you, that it matters less what it's doing out there than it does what you're doing inside, and how you ground your energies normally, right? How you would normally do it, and whether or not you're continuing that on those high energy days. Right? I'll just say that. Hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't, leave it in comments, but I think it would make that sense. It's something I've been talking about continually. All right, and I'm just repeating myself in this, that you need to know your own condition before you blame the Schumann that something's up. You are free to hold whatever views you see fit. However, I'm here to give you the most concise opinions and experience, strength, and hope in this post, and in all my posts. And in what I present here, that's my goal. Even if you don't get the whole, relative to the Schumann resonances and all this, even if you don't get the whole entire technical process, it's important to not get negative, or not give negative intentions and vibrations into the conversation over here, and that's my goal. So I'm talking about myself, right? But specifically as applies to other people. I hear that if you don't know what it is, don't give out negative vibrations. Ask questions, right? Don't make negative statements. Just ask questions, right? I think that's the point I'm making. I work to stick to principles and observational science and research when and wherever possible. If you don't get the technical aspects, don't sweat over it. Keep calm and find your still point. I'm not doing this here for money or for popularity. I simply want to share my love for the technology and the process of acquiring a signal and radio, and all the conditioning of the signal, and how they get all of that that's involved. It's fascinating of itself without being a greater spiritual connotation to it. If there isn't an innate spiritual connection, one can't help or you can't keep beating a dead horse, right? If there's nothing there, if there's no innate spiritual connection, you can't invent one by using, mystical jargon to find the innate collective consciousness behind the radio waves of harmonics, behind the Schumann resonances. The answer to peace, serenity, and collective consciousness is through the pathway of getting in touch with the shared genetics of the human experience, with the rest of the humans, right? Sitting around on the campfire and sharing stories and singing Kumbaya and someone playing acoustic guitar. That's how you find collective consciousness. For example, at summer camp where we used to do that, or Christian camp or whatever, right? This veil causes you to forget anything greater than the planet, and what's going on now. But the veil also allows you to connect with people through the genetics of the planetary matrix, of which we're embedded with the animated form, the animated clay that we are. That's what allows us to connect to people through the collective consciousness of the DNA, right? That, like, I have a vision of this, I have a picture in my head, and I want to express this to you so you have it. However, this is very difficult, and I'm trying to do my best. But I think there's a few of you out there that can understand it, and I think you're getting this, what they're giving me to explain to you and how this works. That the veil is, on one hand, it's a kind of a closing off to source and anything greater than the earth reality plane, anything beyond it. We're alone. We're alone and lonely and isolated and alienated out here, right? Out in the far reaches of the galaxy, the Milky Way, in these forms. The earth birth clay vessel form of the Adamu. So it is, on the one hand, that's the isolating us from out. On the other hand, that same veil of living in the suit allows you to connect telepathically, psychically, intuitively to other people, other humans, like 93% of all other humans. And I dare say 93% of all intelligent creatures, like your dog or a cat or any animal with a central nervous system and a brain. Essentially, the chimps, the monkeys, a lot of animals are smarter than humans in my view. So anyway, so that's like the trade-off. That's like the balance or the greater reality of living in the suit of the human suit is the intuition that we share through the genetics of the body itself. I think that's the best way to put it. All right. So, do I read for another 6 minutes, or do I play 3 minutes of music and then I play some? All right, I said I was gonna read through. I'm gonna play some music, finish the rest of this, and then I'll be back.
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
back. We're coming back. It was. We are the party people. We're the party people, definitely. Oh yeah. Well, Aaron's the party people, and we're just following along behind him. One of our 10,000 manic DJs. Anyway, onward and upward. Okay, we're back. All right, onward and upward. The veil of forgetting, the veil of Maya, the veil of Gaia. Uh, the veil of the Ademu, the earth birth suit. And the word Ademo literally means red, ruddy clay. All right, the original human being was of red, ruddy complexion. So that's how you get that name, Ademu. And the short version of that is Adam. All right. So those who are not the red, ruddy clay are Adam, and the original is Ademu. And anyway, um, so we talk about the veil of Maya, this veil, veil materialism, the veil of the world veil. There's a number of different names for it, veil of forgetting. And it is dropping, it's decreasing. However, uh, unfortunately, one of the flip side of it is what's being revealed is not exactly a pretty picture. People are kind of getting a little bit upset at what they're seeing as the wall of illusion comes down around them. I think is if that's the fair way to put it. And I talk about this that there's a difference between woke and awake. And the Piscean cover version, conspiracy theory, all of that, it's still alive and well, right? It's still here. You better believe it. And so that's one of it's still the veil is still here. It's coming down, but it hasn't dropped. It's going to take a long time, and people need to understand all that. Anyway, I can't get into all that. Unfortunately, what's being revealed is not exactly a pretty picture. Yet, all of the societal ballast is in dire need of cleaning. So remember that. And so there's a lot of stuff that's the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial is a good example of that, of all this toxic stuff that's happening underneath the radar, behind closed doors. People don't know about it, haven't known about it until, like it comes to light, and you're seeing more and more of this. People on TikTok and all this stuff putting themselves out there, and these cringe videos of people showing you exactly who they are. Anyway, back to the topic. People, humans, the majority of folks who are involved in this, talk about this, members, the majority of folks regularly forget that this is a series of harmonics. So it's not just one frequency, there's a series of 5, 6 of them that all work together. Right? It's not merely one lonely single frequency. Your physical person, the body itself, also has the body complex of the Adamo operates itself as a series of harmonics of varying frequencies, intensities. Okay, and that's part of your collection of energy of the body of the person is, and you accumulate resonant you accumulate frequencies at certain points, and those are your chakras. People know those as chakras, but those are like interdimensional means of which we communicate emotional energy to each other. Is those portals, accumulation of energy, energy centers. It's a hard time kind of explaining exactly what they are. There's those of you that know what they are, and this is geared toward those of you. That's how we communicate in the rudimentary language of our body, of the, as I was saying, the genetics. We because of the shared genetics, we're able to transmit information through that interdimensional portal, those energy centers, and to transceive, send and receive. Um, the entire topic is extremely difficult to fully comprehend. Only after a short time dedicated to learning the topic. So you can't just get it coming in having a short time. You really got to spend a lot of time with it. Either the subset of the Schumann resonances or the larger umbrella topic of the atmospheric electromagnetics, which also involves telluric currents, the magnetosphere, and multiple other subject matters that we're not going to get into now, but it's a much bigger thing. Right? So this is all very complicated, and you can't expect to get it just coming into it, after a few weeks or a few months or even few years. Like you get your basics down, that's great, but it takes time to wrap your head around all this, especially when you have the added layer of complexity of the spectrogram. Like that's a whole different level of complexity that most people aren't realizing how complex and technical that image is that you're seeing. And that's why the majority of folks regularly misinterpret what it is that they're looking at when they are deciphering the patterns on the spectrogram. The veil of forgetting, or the veil of Maya, causes us to forget that we are a component in this system. So the ego mind, the egoic mind of the higher mind, the cerebrum, that isolates us from this process, and we forget, we don't realize, we insulate ourselves from it, and we accumulate a charge that way. The higher frequency you go, you're accumulating more charge. You're not dissipating it properly through the proper collective consciousness. Right? You're isolating and alienating yourself into the higher frequencies, right? And you're perpetuating the veil of you're perpetuating, you're powering the veil of Maya even further. It's, the veil is coming down, but you're not letting it come down. You're not letting it drop or go. You're accumulating energy. And so you can either forget this and accumulate, a charge, like I was saying, thinking that you're isolated and alienated, or we can let it go. You can let it go, and we can all let it go and ground the accumulated thoughts, emotions, feelings, expectations, etc., into the planetary body herself. Right? Hold on to it or let it go, but either way, the choice is yours. Exercising this choice is the very nature of free will, of you either holding on to it or letting it go, right? Of grounding that energy. You being, isolated yourself, you alone, alienated by yourself, or you letting it go and be part of all of everything else to express and experience collective consciousness as it truly is, as a human. Either way, the choice is yours, and either way, it's an exercise of free will. So thank you all for being here. Do well and be well. All right, so on that cheery note, 1:55. So I think I'm going to play music till exactly two hours. We're at 1:55 now, and I think that's a great place. Right? So if you have objections to that, I think you can note them in the comments, and I will take them under consideration. However, for the time being, I'm going to play some music, and we can mull over that, because I really do like this mix. And remember, we are the party people. I mean, nothing to do with me. We're the party people. I'm just, I'm just a carrier of that message.
Ain't got no problem, that's for real. Ain't got no drama, she know the deal. Making that money for the fancy clothes, but she got her own, you know the drill.